You're sitting in a waiting room in a building in Manhattan that doesn't have a sign outside. The chair is uncomfortable. The receptionist hasn't looked up from her screen in 20 minutes. There's a coffee machine in the corner and a stack of magazines from 2019 and a security camera in every corner of the ceiling, and behind the frosted glass door someone is definitely watching you right now. You got the email 3 days ago, no subject line. Just an address and a time. You Googled the address, nothing came up. You almost didn't come. You came. The frosted glass door opens. A woman in a black jacket steps out. She looks at you the way people look at you when they already know everything about you and are deciding whether the in-person version matches the file. She says your name. You stand up. She says, "Mr. Stark, we'll see you now." You are 27 years old. You have a mechanical engineering degree, a background in applied physics, and a specific skill set that apparently caught the attention of someone who can afford a building in Manhattan with no sign outside. You follow her through the door. Your life just changed. You don't know yet what that means. Level 1, the recruit. The interview lasts 4 hours. Not with Stark, with a woman named Agent Hill who asks questions that are not really questions. They are assessments. She is determining 3 things simultaneously. Whether you are competent, whether you are stable, whether you can be trusted with information that, if it became public, would destabilize several governments and cause a worldwide panic. You answer everything honestly. You sense that lying would be immediately obvious and permanently disqualifying. At the end of the 4 hours, she slides a document across the table. 47 pages. Non-disclosure agreement. Liability waiver, security clearance acknowledgement. A section on page 31 titled Acceptable Risk Disclosure that you read 3 times and still aren't sure you fully understand. You sign it. She gives you a badge, Building Access Level 2. She tells you what Level 2 means. She tells you what Levels 3 through 9 mean. She tells you that you currently have no path to Level 9 and that this is fine and expected, and the people at Level 9 have earned it in ways that will become clear to you over time. You start Monday. Your official title is Technical Support Specialist, Advanced Systems Division. You tell your mother you got a government contractor job. This is technically true. You don't tell her about the 47 pages. Level 2, the support staff. You're 27, working in the tech lab on sublevel 4. Your job is to support the people who are actually doing the things. You run diagnostics on equipment you're not allowed to touch directly. You analyze field data from missions you're not briefed on. You write reports that go up a chain and come back with redactions where the interesting parts were. You see them sometimes in the hallways, the actual team. They are taller than they look in the news coverage, and they move differently than regular people move, with a specific awareness of every exit in every room and the locations of everyone around them at all times. They don't make eye contact with support staff as a rule, not rudely. They're just operating on a different frequency. Except one of them does. A man named Sam Wilson stops in the hallway outside your lab one Tuesday afternoon and asks if you're the person who fixed the diagnostic array on the wing system last week. You say yes. He says it's working better than it has in 8 months. He says good work. He means it. You think about that for the rest of the week. You start coming in early, you start staying late. You start reading everything you're allowed to read about the systems you're supporting and some things you're technically not allowed to read but that are accessible if you know which internal databases have weak permission structures. Hill notices this. She doesn't reprimand you. She gives you a Level 3 badge. She says, "Don't access things you're not cleared for," then she says, "but keep doing everything else." Level 3, the Field Support Analyst. You're 29. You're in the van now. Not on the ground, in the support vehicle 3 blocks from whatever is happening on the ground, running real-time systems analysis, tracking team positions, feeding intel to earpieces, and managing the 17 things that are going wrong simultaneously while the team deals with the one thing that's trying to kill them. The first time you do this, leave your hands shake for the first 40 minutes. Then a situation develops that requires you to reroute 3 separate systems while talking 2 people through a structural collapse scenario, and your hands stop shaking because you don't have time for them to shake. After the op, the team files back into the van. Nobody talks much. There's a specific quiet after something difficult that you learn to read. The quiet means it went well enough. A different kind of quiet means it didn't. You learn to read the team the way you read systems, patterns, signals, deviations from baseline. Stark notices you do this. He notices because he does the same thing and he recognizes it. One afternoon in the lab he says, without looking up from what he's working on, "Your situational mapping is better than most of my analysts." You say thank you. He says it's not a compliment yet, it's an observation. It becomes a compliment when you figure out what to do with it. You spend 6 months figuring out what to do with it. Level 4, the specialist. You're 31, you have a specific function now. Not general support. You're the person they call for a specific category of problem. Technology-based threats, systems that shouldn't exist but do, devices built by people with more resources than ethics and a specific talent for making things that are very hard to stop. You've developed a framework for reverse engineering threat systems in the field. It takes the average analyst 4 to 6 hours. You do it in 40 minutes. You don't fully understand why you can do this except that your brain builds 3-dimensional models of mechanical and electronic systems automatically and always has, and the work here has sharpened it to a point. You're in the field now, not combat. But close enough that you've had to move fast more than once. Close enough that you've been in situations where something was about to happen and your response time was the variable that determined the outcome. You handle this better than you expected. Not because you're brave. Because in the moment your brain does the same thing it always does. It slows everything down and finds the structure underneath the chaos and identifies the point where the correct input produces the required output. Afterward, alone, is different. Afterward you sit with what almost happened and what would have happened and the specific weight of being a non-enhanced human in environments built for people who are something more than human. You have a conversation with Dr. Banner about this once. He listens carefully. He says, "The not-enhanced humans are the most important people on the team." He says, "We handle the things that require what we are. You handle everything else. Everything else is most of it." You think about that for a long time. Level 5, the Senior Operative. You're 34, you've been through 4 major incidents and 12 smaller operations. You have scar tissue in places that didn't used to have scar tissue. You have a limp that comes back when it rains from something that happened in Sokovia that you're not going to describe in detail. You're training people now, junior analysts, new support staff, the rotating intake of people who sign the 47 pages and show up on Monday morning with their level 2 badges and their hands that shake in the van. You tell them what Martinez would have told you if this had been a different kind of job. You tell them that the shaking stops when the situation requires it to stop. You tell them that what they're building here is not toughness, it's the specific ability to be exactly as useful as the situation requires at exactly the moment it requires it. You tell them about Sam Wilson stopping in the hallway and saying good work. You tell them that the team sees the support structure. That the work registers even when the acknowledgement doesn't come. Some of them believe you. The ones who believe you are the ones who stay. You've been in this building for 7 years. You know where the good coffee machine is, which is not the one in the waiting room where you sat on your first day. You know which hallways the team uses when they don't want to be seen and you know to not be in those hallways. You know which of the non-enhanced staff are burning out and which ones are finding their second wind, and you know which of those things you can affect and which ones you can't. You're the institutional memory now. The person who knows how things work not because they read the manual, but because they were there when the manual was wrong. Level 6, the right hand. You're 38, you're Stark's operational coordinator. Not his assistant, not his deputy. The person who sits across from him when the situation is complex enough that even he needs someone to think out loud with. Someone who doesn't have an ego investment in any particular solution. Someone who can say that's wrong and have it land correctly because the relationship can hold it. You've earned this over 11 years in ways that are not describable in a job title. It happened through accumulated reliability. Through every time you said you'd have something by a certain hour, and it was ready at that hour. Through every situation where you saw the thing nobody else was looking at and said it clearly before it became a crisis. He doesn't say this directly. He never would. But there's a version of acknowledgement that happens when someone like him gives you access to the parts of the operation that matter most. That's the version you have. The work at this level is different. It's not systems. It's people. It's the management of a group of genuinely extraordinary individuals who have the specific problems that extraordinary individuals have. Egos, trauma, the particular difficulty of living in a world that needs you to be extraordinary all the time when you are, underneath everything, a person. You're good at this, better than you expected to be. It turns out that the skill you developed reading systems translates exactly to reading people, patterns. Signals, deviations from baseline, the input that produces the required output. You apply it carefully. You apply it with more care than you apply anything else because the stakes here are not a system. They're a person, several persons, and getting it wrong costs things that systems don't cost. Level 7, the director. You're 43, there's been a restructuring. The kind of restructuring that happens when something goes badly enough that everything has to be rebuilt from different foundations. You're not going to describe what caused it because you were in the room when it happened, and some of it is still classified and some of it you just don't have the words for yet. What you can say is that on the other side of it, when the new structure emerged, you're running the operational division, not the enhanced team. You don't run them, nobody runs them, but you run everything that supports them, enables them, protects the people who protect everyone else. 312 staff, 12 active sites. A budget that would require you to sign another 47 pages to discuss in specifics. You think sometimes about the waiting room, the uncomfortable chair and the 2019 magazines and the coffee machine you didn't use because you were too nervous. The frosted glass door, the woman who said Mr. Stark will see you now. You think about what you knew then versus what you know now. The distance between them is not describable in terms of information or experience or skill. It's describable in terms of what you've seen and what you've carried and who you've become in the process of carrying it. Your mother asks how work is going. You tell her it's good, you tell her it's meaningful, you tell her you work with exceptional people. All of this is true. All of it is the most accurate and complete answer you've ever given. You've been doing this for 16 years. You've been in the room when the world almost ended, and when it was pulled back from the edge and when the people who pulled it back went home and ate dinner like regular people because that's the only way any of it is sustainable. You're one of the people who makes the dinner possible. That's not a small thing. It took you a long time to understand that. You understand it now.